Hey guys, this episode is a compilation of all the Easter eggs we found together over the last 2 weeks. While I'm working on a new big video, I decided to put together this ultimate episode that also includes all the endings, so if you missed anything, this video will show you literally every little detail that has some secret meaning. Tomorrow, there will be another new episode on the channel related to a deeper theme of the Silent Hill 2 remake, so make sure to check the channel. For now, let's go through absolutely every Easter egg in the Silent Hill 2 remake. Hello everyone, my name is Puzzle and this is an episode featuring Easter eggs and small details from the Silent Hill 2 remake, but let's start with not so small details. Wow, that mannequin's trunk is something else. I give this game a solid 10 out of 10. Did you know that the closer you get to the end of the game, the dirtier and more exhausted James looks? You can notice this through the bags under his eyes or the dirt stains on his clothes that don't disappear. There are even official Konami screenshots showcasing this feature of the game, and did you know that James can try to lift Pyramid Head's weapon? And yes, it's way too heavy for him. Another interesting detail is the body on the backseat of James' car. As we know, James helped his wife pass away, and he's going to Silent Hill because he received a letter from her, but he personally assisted her death, and he knows for sure that her body is in the backseat of his car. In the remake, this is especially clear. The decaying body is covered with a blanket. In one of the new endings, you sit in the car, and your wife hugs you from behind, symbolizing that Silent Hill fulfilled James' wish and brought her remains back to life.
What's wrong, honey?
I am sorry. I am so sorry.
The body sitting in the chair watching TV is a reference to one of the endings where James watches a tape and gets absorbed into the TV, disappearing from the real world. And yes, the body in the chair is James, but from a different timeline. Actually, all the bodies you find in the city are James himself, who kept trying to save his wife and died in different ways. Notice how the models of the lying bodies resemble James. By the way, in one of the apartments you can hear a strange whisper. The source of this whisper has been unclear since the original, and it's obvious that in the remake something might be encrypted in it. But what exactly? Honestly, I couldn't figure it out. Also in the game, there's a grave for Walter Sullivan, a character from Silent Hill 4, and in case you forgot, Walter Sullivan is the main antagonist of Silent Hill 4, The Room. He's a serial killer and a religious fanatic. In the fourth game, Walter tried to perform a dark ritual called the 21 Sacraments. From childhood, he considered the apartment where he was born to be his mother, while his real parents abandoned him at birth. In the remake, you can also find a note about his crimes during the events of the second game. In New Game Plus, you can find a chainsaw near the ranch. The chainsaw is a secret weapon and was the source of many memes about how James behaves with it, acting like the maniac from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And yes, even in the remake, you can catch that same emotion from James. Speaking of the Silent Hill Ranch, the developers updated the sign and it now looks nice. Previously, the text on the sign was written in Comic Sans, which made many people laugh. But what's even cooler is that the old sign is still in the remake. It's now lying inside the barn with other trash. When you enter the apartments and go out to the central courtyard, you'll find an old map of Silent Hill. It's the map from the original game. Here, you can examine it in detail. The scattered pizza and its remnants are a reference to the original where Eddie is eating pizza and complaining about life.
This town's full of monsters. Who could just sit here and eat pizza?
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
She said she was fine by herself. She
said a fatso like me would just slow her down.
Forget you.
Maria is a very mysterious character. She's a manifestation of Silent Hill and is tied to some pretty dark endings. The original, you could immediately tell she existed in the town from the posters hung everywhere. These posters are also in the remake, but they're less obvious. Maria isn't as prominent on them, and you can even talk to her about these images, but even cooler is the reference to her original costume. At one point, Maria shows you an outfit worn by the heroine from the original game and asks if you think it would suit her.
Hey, you think I'd look good in this one?
Sure.
Not quite the ringing endorsement, but hey, I'll take it.
But that's not all about Maria. Let's move on to Angela. She's another woman in the second game with deep psychological issues. She's suffering, and at one point she gives you a knife, which can lead to an ending where James decides to end it all. But an important detail is Angela's nails. Even in such a small, subtle detail, the developers show us that Angela has been biting her nails, likely due to her nervous and psychological trauma. By the way, if you want to shake up your mental state, don't forget to watch a separate video on Pyramid Head, where I reveal all the secrets related to him. Now back to Maria. Did you know there's a secret cutscene of Maria's death in the game? You can see it if you don't save her when she's attacked by a mannequin.
No! James!
At the start of the game, you can try to leave the foggy town, but you won't succeed, although you'll be rewarded with an achievement. That's not all. In the beginning, the developers kept a popular joke from the original where the letters on the welcome sign fall off, leaving the word "We Com." This resembled "We Come," and for a long time, fans theorized it was a message from the aliens, who also appear in the game. Many thought these letters were a sign from the aliens. Yes, aliens do exist in the game, specifically in a secret ending where they abduct James. And of course, there are many fun achievements like trying to open 50 doors. I'm sure we'll discover much more cool stuff in the game, but first I'd love to ask you to like this video, and if you enjoyed it, I'll make a part 2 very soon. From my perspective, this remake is amazing, and I'm thrilled that the developers put so much love into creating this game. The huge amount of details, Easter eggs, and references will not only delight new fans, but also encourage them to explore the old version of the game. In my opinion, this remake is a masterpiece. What do you think, everyone? Let me know in the comments. This was Puzzle, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone! Here's another bunch of Easter eggs and details from the new Silent Hill 2 remake. One small detail that many missed is James's first steps in Silent Hill. As you move through the forest, you can hear something stirring. At certain points, you'll even hear a monster you can't mistake for anything else. Interestingly, if you walk back, this trigger activates again and you'll hear the monster's noise once more. During the boss fight with Abstract Daddy, if you climb into the wardrobe, the boss simply leaves. The wardrobe is a safe zone, which is why Angela was hiding from her father there. By the way, here you can find a torn photograph. It's ripped in such a way that one half shows Angela and her mother, while the other half shows her father and brother. This is no coincidence. According to Masahiro Ito, one of the game's developers, Abstract Daddy represents Angela's father, Thomas Orozco, and or her brother looming over her on the bed. The lower figure screams in agony and its mouth resembles a female genital organ. These aspects symbolize the sexual abuse Angela suffered from her father and brother, and her suffering. Ito noted that the head of the lower figure represents Angela in a nightmare mirage. Interestingly, in the room with the TV, the same room as Abstract Daddy, you can find a photo identical to the one in Angela's wardrobe. But in the Abstract Daddy's room, the photo isn't torn. The room where the monster fight happens likely represents Angela's womb. On the flesh-covered walls, there are piston-like holes moving back and forth, resembling sexual intercourse. Each piston may symbolize how many times Angela was abused. In the original game, it was 23 times, but I'm not sure about the remake. By the way, when moving between rooms, you can sometimes hear a voice coming from the TV. It seems to be the voice of Angela's father.
Where would you go? Nothing. No one.
But in the prison, you can find a strange shirt. Maybe I missed something, but it reminds me of the protagonist's shirt from Silent Hill 4. If I'm wrong and missed something, please correct me in the comments. On one of the suitcases, you'll have to assemble a combination of words to open it. It's fascinating how Silent Hill continues to influence James, dropping hints about his sins. For example, the word combination kill wife. It's truly creepy. Let's go back to an earlier part of the game in Rosewater Park. If you try to leave Rosewater Park before meeting Maria, the gates won't open. When Maria is with you, they do.
Strange. I could have sworn.
What? Is something wrong?
No. It's nothing.
James notices this and finds it odd. It's a sign to us that Maria is clearly hiding something from James. But that's not all. There are plenty of strange things to notice about Maria. Toward the end of the game, when James realizes that this world is a manifestation of his inability to accept his guilt for killing Mary, the monsters become much weaker. This happens because James finally understands how this world works. The more he tries to escape his guilt, the stronger the monsters become. At one point, you can see how weak the creatures in the town have become. They literally crawl away from you, exhausted, symbolizing James's acceptance of his guilt. Also, in the game, you find a flashlight on a mannequin dressed in Mary's clothes, but interestingly, the mannequin has no head and it lies behind the mannequin. Even more intriguingly, the mannequin's mouth appears to be covered by a shadow, once again hinting at how James killed his wife by suffocating her and cutting off her air. Additionally, in the game, you'll enter the Historical Society building. Here, James is horrified by a painting of Pyramid Head.
It's him.
But you can also find a painting of the hospital director. Interestingly, there's no name on it, but if you click to read the description, the text says that the name is scratched out and unreadable. However, there are no actual scratches on the painting. A little further in the next room, there's a photo of holes in the floor, which you'll have to jump into for the next few hours after this moment. In apartment 201, there's a bedroom that looks the same as in the Leave ending. Same bedroom. There's an image of the special place James is heading to meet Mary. But when he gets there, Silent Hill plays tricks on him once again. You can see Maria standing in front of James, trying to block the light coming from the fog. She does this just as James is trying to recall memories related to Mary. And that's not all. In the beginning of the game, when you arrive, you are standing right in front of the lake, but you can't see it. The fog blocks everything in front of you. Interestingly, in the original game, this wasn't the case, and you could clearly see the lake in front of you.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday.
But here, the developers, in my opinion, did even better, hinting that Silent Hill is trying to hide something important to James by any means possible, from the fog to distractions by Maria, who prevents James from focusing.
I can't quite.
Hey! I think I might know. I mean, there's this one place. Not far from here.
In one of the earlier episodes, I showed you a terrifying scream from a monster in the prison. The monster itself isn't there, but there are ritual pentagrams and drawings on the wall. What's interesting is that in the original, you could beat this invisible monster. Not just beat it, but even die from it. Unfortunately, in the remake, you can only trigger the scary sound jump scare, but thanks to Bloober Team for that too. In Heaven's Night, you can find Sybil Bennett's glasses from the original Silent Hill, and if you decide to wander the park at night, you can find a strange detail. On a bench lies a white jacket, which seems like it's there for a reason. It's clearly a reference to something. When I first saw it, I thought it might be related to Heather's clothing, as her vest closely resembles this item, but unfortunately it's a jacket, not a vest. And honestly, I can't recall who this piece of clothing belongs to in the Silent Hill games. If you know, please leave a comment. And yeah, I think that's it for today. I'd love to hear about any findings you have in the comments, as I believe this is a community effort, and it would be great to discover and discuss more cool details left by the developers. This is Puzzle, and I see you in the next video. Hi, this is Puzzle, and we're continuing to explore the foggy town and its secrets. Did you know that the body of dead James is gradually decomposing? Notice that the body lying at the end of the street on the way to the Historical Society looks different at various points in the game. When you first come here with Maria, the body is in better condition, if you can call it that. But when you return here at night, there are puddles around it, and it looks more decomposed. By the way, a curious fact, if you aim at this dead body, James won't do it. It's as if hinting to us that he doesn't want to aim at himself, even in death. For example, let's take a couple of steps back and aim at a monster. You can easily aim at it, but not at the dead James. The same goes for all the friendly characters in this game. For instance, you also can't aim at Maria. In the first playthrough, there is an open grave in the cemetery by the water. In the next playthrough, that grave is filled and the Crimson Ceremony book is next to it. A curious fact, for this book to appear here, you need to get the rebirth ending in the first playthrough. By the way, you can also see what the Crimson Ceremony is on the painting in the Historical Society. If you spend about 10 minutes searching, you will find it. It will be a trophy for the time spent here. The room where you meet Eddie and find a body in the fridge belonged to a football player. There are football decorations in the room. And this is a great detail because if we study Eddie's past before the events of Silent Hill, we learn that in the past, one bully, a football player, wouldn't leave Eddie alone even after he graduated high school. Eddie became an easy target and a victim. Eventually, Eddie mentally snapped and killed the bully's dog in retaliation. Afterwards, he shot the bully in the knee using his father's revolver, crippling him though he didn't kill him. Eddie then fled, wandering for a while before settling in Silent Hill, claiming that the town called him there. It's also ambiguous whether or not Eddie is on the run from the police, as he says he just ran because he was scared. And it seems that here in Silent Hill, we see Eddie's revenge. By the way, did you notice the steam coming from Eddie's mouth? When you first find Eddie puking with the dead body in the fridge, Eddie's breath is visible while James's isn't, probably indicating that his other world is colder. There's also a pizza in the apartment, and yes, wherever Eddie has been, there's a pizza box lying around. You can find many such places during your playthrough. By the way, did you know that the car parked at the beginning belongs to Eddie? He drove it here. You can tell by the cup that is always lying somewhere near Eddie. And you know, Silent Hill is full of such things. The more I play, the more I realize how carefully Konami created this masterpiece and how Bloober Team managed to recreate it. For example, the save points in the game. You may have noticed that closer to the end, these strange red squares become closer to each other. At the end, you will find a save point made of 9 squares. Interestingly, this specific save point was on the cover of the Japanese version of Silent Hill 2. More precisely, it was on the Japanese cover of the PS2 and the special steelbook of the remake, which was called 9 Circles of Hell. From this, we can understand what these squares mean as James looks straight into our eyes. There are 2 interpretations of these 9 squares. One is that each red square represents a torment from Silent Hill, hell. The final red square with 9 squares represents the one truth. These 9 squares symbolize illness, mutilation, ugliness, reality, torment, anguish, suffering, despair, and the final boss itself. The other version, rumored to come from the developer Masahiro Ito, suggests that they could represent the 9 creatures' hallucinations that James sees. Pyramid Head, Lying Figure, Mannequin Nurse, Flesh Lips, Mandarin, Abstract Daddy, Maria Mary, the final boss. This also sounds quite interesting. What do you think, folks? Speaking of this large save point, at the moment you stand in front of it, James will be looking off to the side instead of staring at you. Now let's return to the details. Another detail is the room where James finds Angela with a knife, which is untouched by the rusty, decaying otherworld of the rest of the building, indicating that Angela doesn't see it that way. Here in the Historical Society, there's a picture of the developers from Konami hanging on the wall. It was also in the original, just in a slightly different place. Upon entering Lakewood Hotel, you may notice a sign at the entrance that says, "Welcome back," hinting again that James has been here before. The whole hotel is a play with reality. Notice how at first this hotel looks beautiful and new. All the paintings are in place, the wallpaper isn't torn. Later, the entire hotel transforms into an abandoned old building, revealing the true nature of this place. The more James accepts his guilt, the fewer illusions he sees in Silent Hill. Yes, the beautiful version of the hotel belongs to the other world, while the ruined one belongs to the real world. As we know, earlier in the game, it was the opposite. Thank you guys for your support with your comments and for contributing to my episodes. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new content. This was Puzzle. See you in the next video. Hi everyone, my name is Puzzle and this is another episode of Easter Eggs. Thank you for your support in the comments, I really appreciate it. Today we'll be looking at an interesting addition in the remake Glimpses of the Past, which appear as small flashbacks in the game, but we won't stop there, we'll also explore other secrets. Let's begin with some intriguing posters scattered around the city. Apparently, aliens were spotted over Lake Toluca. A funny little detail, especially since the game features a secret ending where aliens abduct James, it seems to be a nod to that ending. Have you noticed the door with a creepy face in the Silent Hill 2 remake? For years there were legends about that strange face, and it turns out it was also present in the original game. The developers of the remake did an amazing job preserving such a seemingly insignificant detail. It's creepy but cool. And yes, glimpses of the past are indeed flashbacks. These events highlight key locations from previous games that were removed, altered, or relocated to another part of the Foggy Town. Interestingly, I couldn't find any comparisons between these places and the original game online, but I think it's a fascinating topic. As I've shown in previous episodes, there are over 3 on my channel now. You can find dead bodies of James throughout the game. These bodies belong to versions of James from different timelines who tried to do exactly what you're doing. Save Mary and escape Silent Hill. This suggests that many versions of James have existed in this town. Some flashbacks even confirm that places from the original game were part of this world too, implying that Silent Hill evolves, improving and reshaping itself. The writing on the wall I showed you in yesterday's episode is proof of this. It's a new new message, but the original one is also still there, just hidden and less noticeable. The trash chute puzzle is also worth mentioning. In the apartments, you need to drop a soda box down the trash chute. This is a new version of the chute, but at the entrance to the apartments you can see the old location, which triggers a flashback for James. Do you see the pattern? This world has witnessed not only James's journey in the remake, but also his journey in the original game. Another confirmation that the original and remake share the same universe is the broken gate on the roof. In the original, Pyramid Head threw James into it, causing it to break. But if you look at the gate in the remake, it's also broken, which means the events in the original have already happened. In the remake, James is thrown through a wooden floor instead, which collapses under his weight. Here's a fun detail. In the laundromat, you can find bloody clothes inside one of the washing machines. Many people online believe these clothes belong to Heather, the protagonist of Silent Hill 3. You can even interact with the clothes, which gives more weight to this theory. Why else would they make the clothes interactable? What do you think? Could this be true? Let me know in the comments. Another throwback is the radio and headphones. In the remake, they are lying on a sofa, but in the original, James could wear them to hear a secret message from a doctor.
Mary's going to die? You must be joking.
You must be joking.
I'm very sorry.
But you're a doctor. It's your job to heal people. How can you just let her die?
Please.
In Neely's bar, in the Otherworld version, you can find an old abandoned map left behind since the events of the original game. As I've mentioned many times, the events of the old game overlap with those of the new one. A flashback near a blocked bridge used to be a key moment in the original game, where James encountered his first monster. Now the area is cluttered with debris. Interestingly, interacting with flashbacks causes the game camera to shift to angles that mimic those from the original game, giving it a nostalgic vibe. The flooded staircase in the apartments was where James fought Pyramid Head in the original game. In the remake, the boss fight now takes place in a new, more modern arena with more room for movement. By the way, did you know that you can defeat Pyramid Head without taking any damage? All you need to do is wait for the siren sound, after which Pyramid Head leaves on his own. There's also a rope with a torn noose. James tried to use it in the original game, along with a puzzle involving a horseshoe. In the remake, we see these items as broken and long forgotten, showing that a lot of time has passed since the events of the original. The butterfly puzzle in the remake might be a reference to Bloober Team themselves. Before working on this remake, they developed several horror games that influenced the genre, including Layers of Fear and Observer. The medium was stylistically very similar to Silent Hill, with dual realities, and likely opened the door for them to develop the remake. That's probably why they included the butterfly puzzle, as butterflies were also used as symbols in the medium. At the start of the game, when you're making your way into the town, you can hear radio interference and a voice, Mary's voice, trying to reach James. This scene also existed in the original game, but happened at a different location, where you encountered the first monster. I already showed that area earlier today.
I'm here. Come to me. James, I'm waiting for you. Why did you kill me? James.
What the? Let's take a quick detour and check out some Easter eggs I missed earlier. Have you noticed the interesting drinks in Silent Hill? There's Ale Peaks, a nod to Twin Peaks. There's also Jacob's Lager, referencing Jacob's Ladder, a film that heavily influenced the atmosphere of Silent Hill. In fact, the original Silent Hill Toshu developers were deeply inspired by this movie. Red Velvet is a nod to David Lynch and his surreal film Blue Velvet, which also inspired the creation of the original game. In the original game, you collect music boxes. Now, they're scattered and broken throughout the remake, once again hinting that we've been to this town before. The flashback at the gates shows another former entrance to the town now blocked by gates. A scratched wall in the apartments marks where James once moved a clock to reveal a narrow passage he had to squeeze through. Creepy mattress with chains in the hospital is another old puzzle that has been relocated to the second floor hall. The safe with 3 locks, once lying on that mattress, is now moved, leaving only the chain behind. As always, friends, I'd appreciate your support with a like and a subscription. If you have anything to add, or if I missed something, please let me know in the comments. I'm currently working on another video that will reveal even more secrets. This next one will be special. If you'd like to see it sooner, let me know. As always, this was Puzzle, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, it's Puzzle, and here's another collection of Easter eggs and details from the new Silent Hill 2 remake. Have you noticed that Silent Hill knows James' profession? As we know from official sources that came out during the original game, James used to be an office worker. This isn't often mentioned in the game, but in the remake, Silent Hill hints at this and tries to lure James by reminding him of his past, peaceful life without monsters and nightmares. The first time you can notice this is by looking at the posters on the poles, which offer office space for rent. And later in the game, when you're in the labyrinth, Silent Hill even throws in a room with an office desk. Silent Hill is hinting to James that he could get an office there and stay in Silent Hill forever. The scene where James squeezes through the door made of limbs could be seen in the trailer for the original Silent Hill. It's a subtle moment, but again, it's cool that the developers recreated even such little details. Especially with the new graphics, this passage looks insanely creepy. By the way, speaking of steady jobs in Silent Hill, have you noticed the post office in the game? It's a rather unnoticeable building. Also in the city, you can find a strange message written on the window which reads, "There was a hole here, it's gone now." A second message can be found later in the game. Art director Masahiro Ito recalls that the origin of the whole message came from either environment artist Takeshi Miura or scenario writer Hiroyuki Owaku. He speculated that the message could symbolize that James Sunderland no longer has anywhere to hide from himself. After killing his wife Mary, James had fallen into a state of denial and was drawn to the town, believing that she might still be alive in Silent Hill, waiting for him. When he arrives, his guilt is manifested into twisted monsters and scenarios, including ones like Pyramid Head, which tries to force him to remember his crime against his will. Many believe this is a reference to Silent Hill 4, where the protagonist encounters holes in the walls. Moreover, a very similar hole exists in Silent Hill 2 Remake, and the reason I made this connection is that it's located in a bathroom, just like in Silent Hill 4. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but this might not be a coincidence. Since we're talking about James' past today, there's a small but cool detail in the game. James keeps his finger on the trigger, which is something people without military training typically do. You know, safety first. One careless move and you're lying there with another pile of Jameses in front of a boss fight with Eddie. Speaking of Eddie, yes, he definitely killed more than just one James, although they look a little different. This is probably due to the distortions in James' otherworld, similar to Angela's nightmares, where her father and brother are abusers. I talked more about this in yesterday's video. In the original Silent Hill 2, there was a moment where 2 insane mannequins would jump out at James out of nowhere and just lie on the road. Their behavior was strange. But in the remake, you can find these guys again. However, in this version you won't see them jump. Walking down the dark street, you'll hear a sound like something fell on the road, and turning around, you'll spot 2 bodies. Yep, it's our old jump scare friends. As always, a small but important detail for fans. At one point, you'll come across a cemetery with graves for James, Eddie, Angela, Walter Sullivan, and a mysterious grave marked Miriam K. Traitor. We find her grave in the cemetery next to Walter Sullivan's grave. Does the name remind you of anyone? Of course, it's no coincidence. Miriam K. is a derivation of Miriam Locane, the name of Walter's 8th victim. She probably betrayed her brother somehow. Obviously, the gravestone is just a hallucination, which was only part of James' world, or was it? James could see other people's worlds too, so maybe he saw Walter's world. Walter, being bad with grammar, could have written Locane. This Easter egg has been puzzling people for decades, and if you have any ideas about it, it would be interesting to hear them in the comments. Have you noticed that if you lower James' health to 0, the old health icon from the original game appears in the interface? By the way, you can also find it on a pharmacy in town. You can see multiple damage marks on the wall. after hearing the sound of Pyramid Head walking through the corridors. These sounds are the damage he's causing as he moves around with his not-so-convenient weapon. Also, the transition from reality to the other world in the game can be noticed by the flickering of the flashlight, especially in the labyrinth when you enter the other world. In the corridors where you'll meet Pyramid Head, you'll see familiar locations like the wardrobe James hid in, and there's a small surprise when you reach the ladder. Turning for just a second to descend, you'll notice that Pyramid Head has been following you the whole time, then he just disappears. Also during the game, you may start hearing sudden gasps at key locations or places related to Mary. And yes, it's Mary's final breath, haunting James throughout Silent Hill and doesn't let him go. Have you noticed that all the clocks show the same time? It's 9:10. Even in the puzzle in the apartments, we set this time on the clocks. It definitely means something, and most likely it's the time of Mary's death. Like everything in Silent Hill, the town is hinting to our protagonist about his wife's death. There's also an interesting code on one of the safes in the game, specifically 0451. Fans of immersive sims such as Deus Ex, Dishonored, and System Shock will appreciate this, as this number combination is something of a nod to the genre. In all games of this genre, you can find a random safe, lock, or door, and this code will always open the lock. This code has become a kind of Easter egg among developers who pay tribute to the immersive sim genre. By the way, speaking of nods to Silent Hill 3, take a look at the police car parked in the foggy town. Specifically the logo of the local police, it contains familiar symbols from the halo of the sun, which appears in the third game. Interestingly, we also found this symbol in the hotel earlier, so it's becoming obvious that the developers really want to point us toward the third installment. Could this be because it's the next remake? What do you think? It's funny that during the encounter with Eddie, James will aim at him differently. His aim will shake, and he'll seem uncertain during the fight. This can be explained by the fact that Eddie is essentially the first human-like opponent in the game. Before this, we only fought grotesque monsters and creatures, but what's even cooler is that after the boss fight, James will repeat a scene from the beginning of the game where he looks at his hands. This time he seems to be accepting himself and what's happening around him. His hands won't shake anymore because he's already done it and is accepting himself for who he is. Specifically, his guilt, which he has been trying to avoid throughout the game. And that's it for today, I think. We've already covered so many little details that I'm getting tired of referring to my previous videos, so I recommend subscribing to the channel and checking out the content there. I'll keep making detailed reviews, and thanks for the support, everyone. This was Puzzle. See you in the next video. Hi everyone, this is a new episode of Details and Easter Eggs in Silent Hill 2 Remake. My name is Puzzle and we're continuing our journey through this mysterious foggy town. Today we're diving into some really terrifying moments. Towards the end of the game, you'll come across a bathroom stall. When you try to push the door, you'll notice it's locked. As you walk away, you'll suddenly get a jump scare. Someone trapped behind that door will start thrashing and screaming, trying to break out. Another creepy moment happens in the prison where you'll find a strange cell. It was present in the original game too, and the pentagram on the wall references the cult from Silent Hill 1. But the scariest part is the infamous jump scare in this cell, the eerie voice of the dead cultist whose spirit still lingers. Thankfully, the developers stayed true to the original, keeping this terrifying detail intact in the remake. And yeah guys, if you enjoy these kinds of videos, please support me with a like and a subscription. I promise to keep bringing you more great content. Also in the game, you can find a painting of a house from the intro cinematic of Silent Hill 1. It's a subtle nod to the original game and a nice little detail. The morgue. In the original game, the morgue had its own creepy moment. When you entered, you could see a corpse suddenly twitch, a classic jump scare that has also been carried over to the remake. Though the movement is more subtle now, if you look closely, you'll notice a slight twitch in the leg. There's another unsettling moment in the hospital. As you explore, the hospital itself feels like it's breathing at certain points. This becomes even more apparent when you reach the other world. Go to the room where Maria was resting and you'll notice she isn't there anymore, but you can still hear her breathing. This breathing eerily resembles the strange sounds the hospital makes. You'll also find some pills there, hinting that Maria was taking them while in the other world. You can find a sticker of the bunny in the bar, along with advertisements for Lakeside Amusement Park, the bunny's home. It makes me wonder, are the developers teasing a Silent Hill 3 remake? I even made a detailed video exploring possible DLCs and the next remake, and there's another new reference to Silent Hill 3 in the game. In the hospital, as you near the end of the level, the elevator will suddenly stop. You'll hear a strange radio show where the host asks weird questions aimed at James. The answers to these questions are actually the key to opening a small chest later in the game. One of the questions refers to a disturbing incident involving children in Silent Hill, where a madman attacked them with a weapon. You're asked to guess the name of a girl involved in the incident, and one of the options is Heather, the protagonist from Silent Hill 3. Yet another hint toward a future remake of the third game.
What a terrible tragedy. What a gruesome end to such innocent lives. One of the victims was a local boy named Billy Loquet. But what was the name of the other victim? Billy's sister. 1. Miriam. 2. Heather. 3. Julia. Well, that's the last of our questions.
Do you remember the quote on the wall from the original game? The door that wakes in darkness, opening into nightmares? It's still in the remake, but in a new location. However, the original version hasn't been removed. It's still in Silent Hill, just hidden from visitors. It's a neat touch that they kept both versions in the game. Something like 2 universes in one. I like it. Another cool thing, it is detail related to bowling. In the original game, Maria refused to go inside the bowling alley, telling James she'd wait outside.
I'll wait here. I hate bowling.
I didn't come here to play, you know.
Hurry back, okay?
In the remake, the developers added a funny twist. When James asks Maria if she wants to wait outside again, she gets annoyed and says, "Why would I wait outside?" A playful jab at the original's odd moment.
You can wait outside if you want. I'll just look around the place.
Why would I want to wait outside?
I thought you might not want to.
James, if you don't want me around anymore, you can just say it.
No, it's not that. Just a stray thought.
One of the apartments, you'll find balloons spelling out "Welcome Home." It's a bit of a joke because you'll be greeted by a monster shortly after. This moment feels similar to Resident Evil 2, where Leon arrives at the police station and is greeted by balloons. If you have the patience to shoot all the balloons in the apartment, you'll unlock a trophy called "Let's Not Party." A small but fun detail, there's also a typewriter in the game that references The Shining. In a previous episode, we talked about the Lakeview Hotel, which takes inspiration from the Overlook Hotel in the film. Now, this little nod to the typewriter scene just adds another layer to the connection. I've already covered a ton of secrets from this game, so if you haven't seen them yet, make sure to check out my other videos. I have a feeling there's still a lot more hidden content waiting to be discovered in this game. The amount of care the developers put into this remake is insane, and it feels like it could become as iconic as the original. The most important thing now is for the game to sell well so the developers can create more remakes and revive the series. Personally, I'd love to see a remake of Silent Hill 4. Its atmosphere was incredible. I know people whose favorite game is either the third or even the first one, and I hope this remake marks the beginning of a new era for the series. This was Puzzle, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching! Hi everyone, my name is Puzzle, and today I have even more Easter eggs and hidden details from the Silent Hill 2 remake. Toward the end of the game, you'll notice that Silent Hill begins to take over James's mind. Almost at the very end of the game, if you open Mary's letter, you'll see that the text has completely disappeared. Just like the ring disappears from the character's finger, interestingly you can even find the missing ring in the game. It's located in the Heaven's Night bar inside a lost and found box. This moment hints that once James connects with Maria, he starts losing his bond with Mary. Speaking of fingers, James's nails also get dirtier as you progress towards the end of the game, and it's not surprising considering James has been digging through trash and toilets throughout the playthrough. In the motel in room 106, James starts saying a strange phrase.
Cozy.
This room. There's something wrong with it. I think we should leave.
Oh, loosen up, James. It sure beats running around with those monsters out there.
I'm not so sure.
Specifically that he wants to leave and get out of here. This is no coincidence, as this room is a reference to Silent Hill 3 and the character Douglas. You can even find his hat there. In fact, you were in this same room in the third game. Douglas and Heather are in room 106, either watching TV or sleeping. It's a funny reference, but not the only one. If you return to the motel later, at night you'll find an Easter egg even bigger than just Douglas's hat on the chair. At night, the wallpaper on one of the walls will peel away, revealing the Silent Hill 3 logo, plus the TV will be on. And yes, room 106 looks exactly the same as it did in the third game. Let's continue. When you're in the town and go to the bar with Maria, you can find one of the flashbacks, a door leading to some building.
What is it?
Nothing. Just deja vu.
In the remake, this door leads nowhere, but in the original, it was the entrance to the Heaven's Night bar, which is the original location of the building. Speaking of the bar and Silent Hill 3, I can't help but mention the sticker on the mirror in the bar. It's a sticker of Robbie the Rabbit from Silent Hill 3. Robbie the Rabbit is an anthropomorphic rabbit character that has appeared in many Silent Hill games. He's the mascot of Lakeside Amusement Park, and yes, for those who bought the extended version of the game, there was even a special costume of this rabbit. Since we're talking about other games in the bar, the Heaven's Night bar also has a nurse uniform, which is a reference to Lizzie, a character from the first Silent Hill. I really hope we get a remake of that game one day. In the hospital, on the way up to the second floor, there's a poster you can interact with. If you use the read function, James will read everything except the word guilt, hinting that James is not being honest with himself. This parallels Pyramid Head, who is the manifestation of his guilt. When you head to the bar, Maria will notice one of the houses and seem to avoid it. If you enter the yard of this house, she won't cross the gate and will appear very anxious. You can ask her what's wrong, and Maria will mention that she has some unsettling memories about this place.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, it's just... this place... it just gives me the creeps. I'm not sure why.
You ever been inside?
I'm not sure. It does feel familiar somehow. Like a bad memory. It's nothing, really.
For new players, this might not make much sense, but in the original, Maria had her own storyline that you could play through. This story took place in this building. I wonder if the developers will make this story as a separate DLC later, like they did with Ada Wong's DLC in Resident Evil 4. Speaking of newspapers in the game, did you notice they mentioned that the apartments were flooded? This is an interesting detail because in the original Silent Hill 2, James fought Pyramid Head in the flooded apartments, but in the remake, this scene was removed. Save your game while Maria is with you. She will comment on how suspicious it is that you're standing around that red piece of paper, breaking the fourth wall and showing how strange James looks when saving the game.
James? Is everything all right? Hey, you okay? It's like you froze for a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
Maria also reacts if you shine the flashlight in her face, shoot near her, or break a lot of windows while she's nearby. And on the Andy's Tool Shop sign, you can spot a reference to Metal Gear. As we know, Konami is currently working on reviving that legendary series as well. Let's wish them luck, hoping the game is of the same quality as the Silent Hill 2 remake. I also want to mention that most of the buildings and locations in the game have been preserved. For example, Happy Burger was in the original game too. It looks great now, but some details in Silent Hill have still changed. There's even a reference to the bread scene from Silent Hill 3 in this game. In the remake, you also get an achievement for it, which is a nice touch. By the way, on Reddit, there have been some interesting photo comparisons between Lakeview Hotel at the end of the game and the Overlook Hotel from the movie The Shining, which was based on Stephen King's book of the same name. You can also approach the pole in the bar, and Maria will comment that she would love to see you dancing around it.
You gonna dance for me, big guy? I'd pay to see that.
Finally, there's a scene where Maria sings the game's soundtrack. You can catch her humming her theme, breaking the fourth wall again. As we can see, the game is packed with Easter eggs and secrets, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I kindly ask you to like and comment, as it really helps the channel produce daily videos. Let me know what I might have missed in this video, and if you want more secrets and Easter eggs, check out the video with all the secret endings or my previous Easter egg video. I'm still blown away by the game, spending all my time on it because it's just impossible to put down. The developers did an amazing job that keeps surprising me. This was Puzzle, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Hey everyone, here's another episode of Easter Eggs and Secrets from the Silent Hill 2 remake. My name is Puzzle, and I hope you enjoy the video. At the end of the game, when Maria is captured by the Pyramid Heads, despite what happens to her in that scene, during the fight you can notice that Maria is smiling. This curious detail shows us that this woman is not as simple as she seems. In the hotel, you can hear an unexpected scream from Mary, but in the original it was more subtle, leaving you wondering, did I really hear that? It's like a sort of whisper.
James!
In the remake, we can clearly hear this scream. In the Happy Burger, you can spot the menu the establishment offers. Unfortunately, in the game, this detail is quite hard to notice, but on the fries there's an image of the rabbit. Speaking of game files, one of the players found this photo, which is likely located somewhere in the apartments. Whether you've seen it or not, let me know in the comments. Another interesting fact, Pyramid Head's weapon is a scissors. This was confirmed by the designer, Masahiro Ito. In his tweet, he said that this weapon is perfect for this creature in terms of symbolism. One half of the scissors belongs to Pyramid Head, and the other to James, hinting at their connection. Also, in the game there's a barbershop where you can find lying scissors and a note that clearly hints at Pyramid Head and the sounds he makes while moving. By the way, yesterday we discussed these sounds and the damage his helmet causes to the locations. If you missed it, make sure to check that video. Here's another interesting moment. Let's return to the game files and find a journal about UFOs. Its headlines are not accidental. The words alien device found in a local shop refer to the blue stone that appears in one of the stores in NG Plus and is used to get the UFO ending. Next, in one of the shop windows you can easily spot different locations in the city, including the Balkan Church in Old Silent Hill. This is the very same location from Silent Hill 1, where Harry Mason meets Dahlia Gillespie.
Were you ringing that bell?
I've been expecting you.
Towards the end of the game, if you go to the inventory and quickly switch between items, you can catch some frames in the background. These are quite sad scenes. Even in the inventory, Silent Hill reminds James of what he did to Mary. Another book can be found during the game, and interestingly, the cover uses a screenshot of the starting location from the original Silent Hill 2. Now let's talk a bit about references to Silent Hill 1. In one of the cabinets, you can find the incubator's dress from the first game. Another nod to the first game, you can find a book authored by Dr. Michael Kaufman, a character from the first game. Also, in the hospital there's a section of a map with the town's layout from the first SH and a picture of the Alchemilla Hospital, which is also from Silent Hill 1. In the theater, if you look closely at the white noise on the big screen, you can see a glimpse of the ending with James. This heater could be a reference to Shining, and yes, it's also located in the hotel. On the texture of the VHS tape, there's the inscription, "Jack Swallow searching red rum," which is most likely another reference to The Shining. Plus, we know that the final location is inspired by the place that inspired Stephen King to write the novel. By the way, did you know that Silent Hill is located in Maine? Eddie is likely from that state as well, as we can see Maine on his cap. Speaking of the first game, the nearest town to Silent Hill is called Brahms. We can see this on the sign at the start of the game. Interestingly, the original stated that this town was 265 miles away, which is very far. In the first game, we meet a police officer from Brahms, Sybil Bennett, who is sent to Silent Hill to investigate the sudden lack of communication between her police precinct and Silent Hill's local law enforcement. Like Travis, she faces strange events that prevent her from completing her task. However, it's implied that the town isn't too far away since Sybil intended to walk there. Later, the developers admitted it was a typo and the actual distance is 26.5 miles. In the remake, we see the number is heavily faded, so it's unclear how far the distance to Brahms really is.
Sybil Bennett. I'm a police officer from Brahms, the next town over. The phones are all dead, and the radio too. I'm going back to call in some reinforcements. Hold it. Where do you think you're going?
Also, when Pyramid Head attacks with his spear in battle, his growl is identical to James's when he's under attack. On the prison gallows, you can find images of two figures with spears, resembling Pyramid Head. They might also represent members of the Valtiel sect who wore triangular hoods. Speaking of this cult, you can find images of its executioners in the Historical Society. Pyramid Head's physical appearance is influenced by the image of Valtiel, and his outfit was based on the robes of executioners from Silent Hill's history. There are many physical similarities between Pyramid Head and Valtiel, including their clothing and gloves. By the way, the followers of the Valtiel sect are depicted in the painting titled Crimson and White Banquet for the Gods. Their outfits indeed resemble Pyramid Head's. Remember that painting in the museum? As game developer Masahiro Ito explained, when James visited Silent Hill with Mary, he saw this painting at the Historical Society. The image stuck in his mind, which is why James also sees Pyramid Head from the painting in his nightmares. And since we're talking about the gallows, you've probably all heard the sound of horses there. One theory suggests this is a reference to a method of execution used back in the day, where a victim would be tied between two horses, and you can guess the rest. Members of the Valtiel cult worshipped the angel Valtiel, who was considered closest to God. They wore red headgear and white robes and served as executioners. Pyramid Head's helmet resembles these red hoods, signifying his role as an executioner. However, the helmet was also designed to look extremely uncomfortable, functioning as both a torture device and a symbol of authority. Also, when James enters the Lakeview Hotel, he can play one of the game's themes on the piano. Truly, a talented person is talented in everything: killing monsters, his wife, and playing the piano. And that's all for now. The game turned out to be amazing, and the number of details and subtle references is just mind-blowing. I'm incredibly happy that such a legendary series got such a wonderful remake. Thanks everyone for watching. I really enjoyed going through all these nuances and details, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Silent Hill 2 Remake has 8 endings. At the time of the original release, 6 endings were discovered, each based on very vague conditions. In the remake, the developers added 2 more. In this video, I'll talk about the most challenging and coolest endings. For example, how to perform the ritual and revive Mary, how to summon aliens, or even how to meet the dog at the end. I'll start with the secret and even humorous endings. My name is Puzzle, and to support me, please like this video and leave any comment, and let's get started. The UFO ending. This comedic ending doesn't match the overall atmosphere of the game and is also only available in New Game Plus. You'll need to find a special item, a blue gemstone, and use it in specific locations. The funniest part of this ending is that you'll meet James from the original game. As it turns out, he wants to take you with the aliens. And yes, he's called Space James. The ending is ridiculous, but another funny ending in New Game Plus. To unlock it, you'll need to craft a special key to open the observatory room near room 312 in the Lakeview Hotel. In this room, you'll meet the one controlling everything in this town, and it's a dog. She happily greets you as you've uncovered Silent Hill's biggest secret. Now we'll move on to the 2 new endings added to the remake. Like the other secret endings, they are also available only in New Game Plus. Let's start with the silence ending. In this ending, you're sitting in the car talking to Mary, who appears in the backseat of the car from the beginning of the game.
What's wrong, honey?
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Curious players might notice that at the start, James arrives in Silent Hill with something lying on the back seat. You can see the outline under a blanket. Could it be Mary's body? But in this ending, she comes back to life. Creepy, right? But now things are about to get even scarier, as we'll activate not just a new ending, but a sad one. We'll be reviving Mary from the dead. Right after that, I'll show you another new ending from the remake. The Ritual ending. In this ending, James decides to resurrect Mary through magic, but he'll need several ingredients. There are 4 items to find, and that's all you need. You can play through the rest of the game normally. In this ending, you bring Mary back to life, but James realizes this being has nothing in common with his beloved. He tells her this, and it ends with you seeing a disfigured Mary transformed into one of Silent Hill's creatures. You must fight her again.
I can't!
At the end, James sails across the lake in
so peaceful. Forgive me for waking you. But without you, I just can't go on. This town, Silent Hill.
The Bliss ending. This is a strange ending where James finds himself with a living Mary on a videotape and then disappears from Silent Hill. And you know, all these endings are essentially negative. There's only one good ending in the game, which I'll show you later. But to activate the videotape ending, you need to find the liquid white Claudia. Then reach room 312 at Lakeview Hotel as part of the story. Before watching the tape, I'll drink the liquid. This will unlock the new ending.
Come on, we need to finish packing. James, honey, did something happen?
Oh, no, it's fine. Everything's fine.
The in-water ending. The most depressing ending where James can't cope with the weight of responsibility and chooses not to live any longer. In this case, you must frequently inspect the knife, which symbolizes his suicidal thoughts. Additionally, your playstyle should be more aggressive and reckless. Heal only when absolutely necessary and remain injured most of the time. Avoid looking at Mary's photo and letter more than twice throughout the game. Everything else is conditional. It seems you can still reach this ending even if you start looking at the knife closer to the finale and just stop healing.
But you never did. Well, I'm alone there now. In our special place. Waiting for you to come and see me. But you never do. So, I wait. Wrapped in my cocoon of pain and loneliness.
The Leave ending. This is the most positive ending by Silent Hill standards and also the easiest to achieve. In it, James realizes everything and leaves the foggy town with Laura. The main idea of the ending is that James came to Silent Hill as a loving husband, hoping to find his missing wife, so he should act accordingly. First, regularly inspect the photograph and letter from your wife throughout the game. You can't trick the game by checking them 10 times at the start. Next, make sure to keep your health almost fully restored at all times. This becomes more challenging on higher difficulty levels, but on medium, it shouldn't be a problem. Now for the harder tasks, you must ignore Maria as much as possible. Don't visit her in the hospital or the labyrinth, don't protect her from monsters, and avoid following her lead whenever possible. At some point you'll obtain Angela's knife, do not inspect it. Finally, toward the end of the game, in the long hallway, listen to all the lines at the patient's bedside, and before you use the service elevator at Lakeview Hotel, make sure to pick up the personal items. These are the only items you can take without exceeding the weight limit.
And soon, so that you remember me for who I was, and not what the disease made me. I want you to go on. I want you to live. For yourself, and for others. Like you did for me. James, you made me happy.
The Maria ending. The opposite of the previous ending, where you prioritize Maria. Logically, you should avoid checking Mary's letter and photograph, and you also shouldn't inspect Angela's knife. However, you must regularly visit Maria and take care of her. Make sure to visit her in the hospital and labyrinth, don't listen to all the patient dialogues in the long hallway, and don't pick up the personal items before the service elevator. In the end, James leaves Silent Hill with Maria, doomed to repeat everything all over again. And as many theories suggest, the bodies found throughout the game might be James himself, who has already visited this eerie town before. What do you think of these endings? Which one do you find the most atmospheric? Let me know in the comments, and please support this video with a like. It's really, really important to me. Don't ignore it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.
Let's go. Better do something about that cough.